Hello, learners. Welcome to our chapter, The Best Christmas Present in the World by Michael Morpurgo. The author found a letter and he starts to read it. In this second part, he reads the letter. Dearest Connie, I write to you in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. Jim tells his wife that he is very happy that something amazing was happened and he needs to tell her at once. At once means immediately. We were all standing in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning. It was crisp and quite all about, as beautiful a morning as I have ever seen, as cold and frosty as a Christmas morning should be. So he was telling that they were standing in their trenches. Trenches here means a long, deep ditches in the ground where the soldiers can hide. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it, but the truth, I am ashamed to say, is that Fritz began it. First, someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. Then they were calling out to us from across no man's land, "Happy Christmas, Tommy, Happy Christmas." When we had got over the surprise, some of us shouted back, "Same to you, Fritz, same to you." So Jim tells that a German soldier, referred as Fritz, was waving a white flag from the opposite side. Fritz is a very common name in Germany, whereas Tommy in England. You know, children, white is the symbol of peace and harmony. So they were waving it for peace in the war. Both armies were in war, but as it was the Christmas day, the German soldiers decided to call for peace and they were wishing Happy Christmas, Tommy. The British soldiers got surprised, but they were also wishing back, "Same to you, Fritz, same to you." I thought that would be that. We all did. But then suddenly one of them was up there in his grey greatcoat and waving a white flag. "Don't shoot, lads," someone shouted, and no one did. Then there was another Fritz up on the parapet, and another. "Keep your heads down," I told my men. It's a trick, but it wasn't. So Jim notices that the German soldiers who were in greatcoats started to climb up the parapet. Parapet means a low wall. They were waving a white flag and climbing on the wall. Jim thinks it's a trick and he told his soldiers to put their heads down. Soon he realizes that it wasn't a trick at all. One of the Germans was waving a bottle above his head. "It's Christmas Day, Tommy. We have schnapps. We have sausage. We meet you?" "Yes." By this time, there were dozens of them walking towards us across no man's land, and not a rifle between them. Little Private Morris was the first up. "Come on, boys, what are we waiting for?" And then there was no stopping them. Then the Germans were waving a bottle of schnapps. Schnapps is a common fruit-flavored drink in Germany. And sausages. A sausage is a food made up of meat. Slowly, dozens of soldiers were walking towards them across the no man's land, without a rifle between them. Rifle means a gun, so without a gun, the soldiers are moving forward to the British army. Private means soldier. So Soldier Morris was the first one who told the British soldiers to come and join with the Germans for the celebration. So all of them started to enjoy with them. I was the officer. I should have stopped them there and then, I suppose, but the truth is that it never even occurred to me as I should. All along their line and ours, I could see men walking slowly towards one another. Grey coats, khaki coats meeting in the middle. And I was one of them. I was part of this. In the middle of the war, we were making peace. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of the Fritz officer who approached me hand outstretched. "Hanswolf," he said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it. "I'm from Dusseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. Happy Christmas." Hanswolf was a cellist. Cellist is a person who is playing the instrument called cello. "And he wishes Jim Merry Christmas, Captain Jim McPherson," I replied. "And a Happy Christmas to you too. I'm a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England." So Jim introduces him that he was a school teacher in Dorset. So children, you might be thinking why a school teacher or a cellist can be working as a soldier. In England, there was a custom that all the men and youth, they should be deployed in war. It was compulsory to serve for their nation. "Oh, Dorset," he smiled. "I know this place. I know it very well." We shared my rum ration and his excellent sausage. And we talked, Connie. how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English. But it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset, never even been to England. He had learned all he knew of England from school and from reading books in English. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book was Far from the Madding Crowd. So out there in no man's land, we talked of Bathsheba and Gabriel Oak and Sergeant Troy and Dorset, and also told he had a wife and one son, born just 6 months ago. As I looked about me, there were huddles of khaki and grey everywhere, all over no man's land, smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, and eating. So the soldiers were in huddles, means in groups. They were talking and eating and enjoying together. Hanswolf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. He thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. I agreed. We agreed about everything, and he was my enemy. There never was a Christmas party like it, Connie. Jim tells that they also shared the Christmas cake which was sent by her with the marzipan. Marzipan is the sweet covering on a cake, and Jim tells Connie that he and Hansworth agreed on everything, though he was his enemy. He also tells there was never ever a party like this that he had enjoyed on that day. Then someone, I don't know who, brought out a football. Great cords were dumped in piles to make goalposts, and the next thing we knew it was Tommy against Fritz out in the middle of no man's land. Hansworth and I looked on and cheered, clapping with our hands. Then someone brought a football, and the soldiers, they have piled their great cords to make goalposts, and the next thing we knew it was Tommy against Fritz out in the middle of no man's land. These two officers, Hansworth and Jim McPherson, they were cheering their teams by clapping their hands. There was a moment when I noticed our breaths mingling in the air between us. He saw it too and smiled. Jim McPherson, he said after a while, I think this is how we should resolve this war. A football match. No one dies in a football match. No children are orphaned, and no wives become widows too. So they were watching the football match between Fritz and Thomas. At that time, Hansworth told that this is how they should resolve any conflicts between the countries. Because in a football match, no one is killed. It doesn't make the children orphans. It doesn't make wives widows. I prefer cricket. I told him, then we Tommies could be sure of winning, probably. We laughed at that, and together we watched the game. Sad to say, Connie, Fritz won. 2-1. But as Hansworth generously told that our goals was wider than theirs. The time came, and all too soon, when the game was finished, the schnapps and the rum and the sausage had long since run out, and we knew it was all over. I wished Hansworth well and told him I hoped he would see his family again soon, that the fighting would end and we could all go home. And when the game was over, Jim wished Hansworth all the best, and also he wished that the war would end and he could go back to his family and see his wife and son. I think that is what every soldier wants on both sides, Hansworth said. Take care, Jim McPherson. I shall never forget this moment. No, you. He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly, I felt. He turned to wave just once and then became one of the hundreds of grey-coated men drifting back towards their trenches. So Hansworth also wishes Jim and tells that all the soldiers think like this way and wishing to go back to their family. And he tells Jim that he will never forget this moment that they celebrated Christmas together. He saluted Jim and went back to his trenches along with his men. That night, back in our dugouts, we heard them singing a carol and singing it quite beautifully. It was still night, silent night. Our boys gave them a rousing chorus of Wild Shepherds Watched. We exchanged carols for a while and then we all fell silent. We had our time of peace and goodwill, a time I will treasure as long as I live. Dugout means underground for soldiers. Then soldiers from the both sides did the Christmas carol and they were singing very happily. And after that they slept quietly in their dugouts. Dearest Connie, by Christmas time next year, this war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. I know from all that happened today, How much both armies long for peace. We shall be together again soon, Connie. I'm sure of it. Your loving Jim. And finally, in his letter, Jim hopes that the war will end and he will be soon back to her. He tells that nobody wants war. No one needs it to happen, and he hopes that they will meet together soon. By telling this, Jim McPherson finishes his letter. So that's all there in this part. The third part will be in the next video. So children, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.